He's been gone a while, but welcome back to El Diablo. Welcome back to Motorsport 101. The streak of 5 different winners in 5 rounds is over. Welcome to episode 269. Go on, get it out of the way.
Nice!
We have a very mature panel with us here of Motorsport 101. I'm your friendly neighborhood host, Dre Harrison, and I'll give you a little backstory before we get into this recording. It is currently nearly 10 p.m. British Standard Time here.
Why
we
is
normally, that? It's what's on in the background, RJ. We were waiting to record because we all got suckered into the Reds Braves baseball wildcard game 1 that went 13 full innings in the end before Freddie Freeman finally hit a walk-off single.
I don't know if this celebration is going to be timely. I don't know if they're going to drop those next 2 games. I'm just so happy we won this one. Let's fucking go!
For those of you who can't see it on YouTube, RJ is the biggest Braves fan.
I don't know if I'm the biggest Braves fan. I do think that there is certain imagery the team has adopted and has tried to distance themselves away from this year that I think is perfectly fine if they did further that. I also don't share a lot of the views and socio-political opinions of most of this Braves fan base, which happens to be situated out in the burbs.
But you like the team.
I just like the team.
That was a great disclaimer, by the way. That was perfect. You rolled that off perfectly. Well, suffering alongside RJ for the next hour or so will be me. Hello, Ryan King.
Hello. I am so looking forward to see the New York Yankees play the Cleveland Indians. This won't go bad at all.
Remember, kids, you heard it here first. There will totally not be a follow-up if Cleveland comes back from a game down to win the series. Just throwing that out there. Meanwhile, speaking of baseball, Cam, how's your Red Sox going down there?
Yeah, how's your wildcard series going?
I have to say, not a lot's really happening in that series. It's kind of had trouble existing, and I think. I don't know what I'm going to have to wait for longer. The next Red Sox win or the next Honda MotoGP podium.
Taka's not done too bad this year. You never know.
Never a podium.
Never a podium.
So what are we going to talk about today, Dre?
We are going to talk about MotoGP's season 2020 Part 2 opener, as Doctor Who would like to call it these days, at Catalunya to break in the second half of the year. And it was a interesting sort of race of attrition. Again, for on-track action, this wasn't a classic, I'm not going to lie to you, even by GP standards, but there was a lot of interesting little things to talk about. And we've got a bunch of interesting off-track news to get through as well, as 3 major seats for silly season got confirmed in the last 72 hours or so, if you want to throw in Saturday.
I'd say so.
Yes, we got the worst kept secret in motorsport that was unveiled on Saturday afternoon. And we'll get
it wasn't.
into that
No, we can't call it that. It wasn't a secret.
Well,
we all knew.
We all knew, but it was finally, officially confirmed for all intents and purposes on Saturday. It regards a certain afro-haired Italian, and a couple more of them getting confirmed in other places up and down the field as well at Ducati, because for once we didn't mistime this recording. Today, Ducati announced the future of their MotoGP lineup, and it's actually pretty good. We'll get into that
why
later
would
on.
you do that? Why would you do that? Why would you put that evil on us?
I don't know what you're referring to here, Mr. Buckley.
No, 15 minutes after we're done recording, they're going to announce that, Ducati's shuttering their entire operation. Just you watch.
Yeah. Just gonna
like Stefano's like, bye guys, everything shut down.
Husqvarna is coming to MotoGP, and they've signed De Vitziozo as their star rider for 5 years.
Oh man,
sweet!
Husqvarna versus KTM. What is this, Supercross?
Bro.
Oh god.
Oh dear. We'll also get into Moto 2 as we had a great fight for the win between Luca Marini and Sam Lowes. BT Sport totally wasn't going crazy over that one, I promise. And in the not so good news for British circumstances, Moto 3 was here where we had a big championship flashpoint between the championship leader and one John McPhee. We'll get into what happened later on. So, before we get going, here's the place you can find us real quick. We're on youtube.com/motorsport101. If you're watching us on YouTube, hi, nice to see you. Why not subscribe and hit the bell to find out exactly when we're next on and when we get videos and all that good stuff. We're on facebook.com/motorsport101. We're on Twitter at motorsport_101. Our handles are on the screen right now if you want to follow us personally on there, as well as in the video description down below. But if you're not watching on YouTube, we're at Harrison101HD. We're at RJ O'Connell, we're at Ryan Eric King, and at CBuckley917. We are now also on Instagram at Motorsport101pod. If you want to check us out on there, future content like sneak peeks, previews, bloopers, all the fun stuff we can't put on our actual feed will probably end up on there at some point, as well as notifications on new episodes and all that good stuff.
Hashtag Instagram influencers.
If Raid Shadow Legends pays us enough, I'm sure we can figure something out. Anyway, also, we're on Patreon, patreon.com/motorsport101. $5 gets you early access to all of the audio versions of the show. $10 gets you the video versions of the show and gets you into the supporters club of our Discord server where you can listen to these episodes live as they're being recorded. You know, it's bad and late when the Aussies have come in from Thursday morning to listen to these recorded. Shout out to Sock, I see you in there. Thanks, buddy. Appreciate you. And all of those details and my own personal thoughts on all the silly season moves that we'll be talking about later on in the show on our website, motorsport101.com. Check the sticky on the top of the blog section for all on the MotoGP silly season. But without further ado, let's get in to Catalunya.
Frankie Morbidelli took his first career pole position in qualifying for the Catalan Grand Prix over his teammate Fabio Quartararo, and Valentino Rossi shared the front row with him, with Maverick Vinales down in 15th, and disaster for Ducati's Andrea De Vitziozo as he qualified in 17th place, failing to make Q2. It only got worse for the Italian championship leader as he was taken out on the opening lap in an incident between him and Johan Zarco, former crashing at turn 2 and collecting Davi in the process. Frankie got the whole shot in the early going, followed by Rossi and Jack Miller. Miller quickly faded as he couldn't stay with the group, but Fabio Quartararo quickly surged and made his way to the front. He'd stay there, keeping a 2 to 3 second lead for the majority of the race. The big flashpoint happened at mid-distance as Valentino Rossi had a very uncharacteristic crash at turn 2, taking him out of the running for his 200th career podium. At the same time, Morbidelli's tires were starting to fade, and he fell into the clutches of the Suzuki riders. Joan Mir took up the charge in second, and on the penultimate lap, Alex Rins took Franco Morbidelli's spot for third. Fabio's lead was disintegrating rapidly, but he held on to take the win by just under a second over the line from Mir in second, with Rins in third, making it the first double Suzuki podium finish since Misano in 2007 with Chris Vermeulen and John Hopkins.
Ooh, those were the days.
Jesus.
Yeah,
the
those
good
were
old
the days
of the 800 cc's.
Yeah, that was the first year of the 800s, wow.
Yeah.
Full race result in the end. Fabio Quartararo winning for Mir and Rins, just 1.8 between the podium there. Frankie Morbidelli 4th, Jack Miller 5th, Francisco Bagnaia 6th, Taka Nakagami 7th, Petrux of his best result of the year in 8th, Maverick Vinales sunk to 9th. Yes, it was another Maverick comeback. Crutchlow in 10th, Brad Binder 11th, Alicia Spargaro 12th, Alex Marquez 13th, Akila Quona 14th, Rabat gets the last of the points in 15th ahead of Bradley Smith and Stefan Bradl. 3 DNFs, actually 5 in total actually. Miguel Oliveira crashed 6 laps till the end. Rossi, as we saw, very uncharacteristic crash, 9 laps out from the end. Paul Espargaro crashed as well, so yeah, 2 KTMs in the gravel. And of course, as mentioned, Zarco and Dovi in the gravel trap after 15 seconds of racing. And you can see the impact it's had on the championship. Remember how we spoke about how close the whole thing was? Well, it's kind of been blown out of the water a little bit after the result of that one. Big title implications all the way through. Fabio Quartararo retakes the championship lead on 108 points. Joan Mir now second on 100. Maverick Vinales on 90. Dovi is now 24 points back from Quartararo in fourth on 84 points. Morbidelli on 77, Miller 75, Nakagami 72, Rins on 60, Miguel Oliveira 58, and Brad Binder on 58, rounding off the top 10. Fellas. Now, this is an interesting race. I think it's fair to say, for balls to the wall action, not a classic, even by MotoGP standards. A little bit on the tamer side, just a touch. But
we had a little bit of action. We had some good bike-to-bike action in the top 5.
But more a case of big implications for the championship, and we'll get to the winner first. I mean, that was textbook from Fabio Quartararo, I think, on that W. Badly.
He needed it. He had gone about a month without really seeing any kind of success while his championship lead was eroded. Now he's got some good points back on the board.
He's +8 now on Mir, and I remember mentioning this in the chat before we got going, that Leopard posted a very cool throwback from their Moto3 days, when back in 2016 their two teammates were, and their lead bike was Joan Mir and Fabio Quartararo, and now they are 1 and 2 in the Top Flight Championship.
That is awesome.
It's funny how these things turn out sometimes. And this was a tyre war race. This really was a tyre management race, and you don't normally see that in MotoGP so much, or at least it's certainly not the emphasis of the race so much. But Catalunya has this knack of it just producing these tyre wars. It's the long corners, it's the loads on the tyres. I remember when we had Lorenzo winning here last year. I remember Dovi, the one that sticks out to me most was Dovi winning here 2 years ago, when he completely mastered the new Michelin tyres, and the Hondas were the only ones that could stay even relatively close. And that's Catalunya for you, isn't it, Cam?
Yeah, it is. And it really seemed to affect the Yamahas most significantly, where Frankie, it's been a bit of a trend lately. Frankie has a really good start to a race and then fades a little bit. And it hit him probably most severely. It hit Rossi. I mean, Rossi was looking pretty good to do some damage in the championship of his own.
Rossi had 200 podiums locked up under lock and key until he put it on the floor, which is something he rarely ever does. Back-to-back retirements, by the way.
Back-to-back retirements. And he was running well in both of these races. It's very uncharacteristic to see. It's like different portions of his game are starting to leave him at different rates, where now it seems he's got some speed back, but now he's putting the bike on the floor. It's really strange.
It's the one thing about Valentino Rossi I would often say is ironclad. His bottle. He doesn't make those sorts of mistakes in Grand Prix. You normally know that Rossi is bulletproof when it comes to his racecraft. That's always been, for me at least, his strongest attribute as a rider. You know he's got bottle, and he's not going to crash in those sort of scenarios. And this is... Go on.
He won his last couple of titles, not necessarily from being the fastest guy out there, but just keeping the bike upright when his competitors couldn't.
Absolutely.
That was a long time ago.
Yeah.
That was 11 years ago now. The last time he won a championship.
And yet he's still got that bike in podium position.
Again, not the first time this season either. He's been challenging for it multiple times this year. This is not a fluke for Valentino to see him up there challenging for a win. He's done this on a semi-frequent basis this year, and it just didn't work out this time around again. He's gone down again. And
back
really,
to the tire wear.
Yeah.
And Fabio was being hit by it late. Mir and Rins were tearing over half a second out of him in the final couple of laps.
This Suzuki team is a problem. It's a good problem to have for us.
It is a good problem to have for us. I mean, Mir was sensational again.
What can you say about
every
4
week.
podiums in his last 5 races? What can you say about never finishing a race outside the top 5 when you have finished?
Yeah, like, at first, early on in the season, it looked like Suzuki were going to be the team not to compete for the championship per se, but to keep the front runners honest. Now it looks like they have a legitimate shot at getting Joan Mir a championship.
Yeah,
that bike is devastatingly quick at the final quarter of a race. Mir and Rins are just taking everyone to the cleaners. They are. They're so much faster than everyone else on worn tires, on low fuel. The problem, of course, is qualifying pace and when the tires are fresh.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are so good. They are better on their tyres than any other team in the paddock. And in a tyre attrition race, Suzuki was always going to come up. Let's not forget, Mir started 13th. He didn't make Q2.
He didn't make Q2, and he was, in the second half of that race, the fastest guy on track by an order of magnitude.
He was a second faster than Quartararo on the final lap of that race. So that race is 1 lap longer. He has a shot to win. The tyres hit Fabio hard at the end of that race. And, Quartararo timed his brake to perfection, because if he gets that 1 lap out, he's in serious trouble of not winning that race or binning it trying. And he got it on the nose. And, incredibly impressive ride from the front too. Let's not forget Alex Rins is still riding with 1.5 shoulders. Yeah,
I was going to mention, he might be the most impressive of the podium getters. Nowhere in qualifying, and pretty much followed Mir through.
Right, first podium of the year for Rins. It's amazing to think it's his first podium. I know he's riding on 1.5 arms, but damn.
Yeah. You know what the Suzuki team reminds me of? It reminds me of the last 2 years of V8 Lotus in F1. Where they were so good on their tires and they were so consistent that they could grab podiums and points as others fell by the wayside.
Yeah, the Grosjean and Kimi era. That was a fun time. They were a good. There was a good period in Formula One. I remember that the only man that was in Vettel's postcode towards the end of that season was Romain Grosjean.
I remember having optimism about Romain Grosjean's upside.
I remember Japan 2013. It still hurts.
Still hurts.
I remember that race as well, but from entirely different races that have nothing to do with the race. Fabio Quartararo, though, I mean, he needed this win. He'd gone 5 races without even standing on the podium after opening the year with 2 back-to-back victories in Jerez. And we were starting to think, okay, this is where Fabio, his inexperience, he starts to fall apart, but he just barely hangs on to keep that win and that points lead.
Yes and no, because I think this, as great as this was for Fabio, I think it's a shot across the bow as well, because Fabio pretty much had as good a race as he could have had. And Mir and Rins were up his exhaust right at the end, after qualifying out of the top 10.
I still want to see
that's scary.
Win one of these net 6 rounds. I think if he's able to turn one of these podiums into a race win, I think he's solidly in this championship hunt.
It's
not
coming.
To say that he isn't already.
I think Valencia technical round, the low speed, big turn in, big rear grip. Watch, I think Mir will take at least one of the Valencia wins later on in the year. You heard it here first.
Well.
They've got to
be top 5 because you can't pass there, especially with the lack of power. That's the only hole in the Suzuki's game right now. Because during that race, he was behind Jack Miller for a good portion of the race, and you watch the Ducati get very small in his windshield, his windscreen visor.
Indeed. One other big, obviously, title contender on the other end of the scale here, Andrea De Vitziozo. I mean, this was a disastrous weekend for the championship leader going into this round.
That was the end. As far as
I don't know if that's
because
the end just yet.
I think that's the end.
Points.
I think that's the end because Ducati have been nowhere. They did all that damage in Austria, and that was just all undone. I can't see anything for the rest of the year suiting the fact, let alone the factory Ducatis. Premac is kicking their ass.
It's a problem. I mean, you look at Dovi's results, right? He was on the podium at the opening round in Jerez. He won in Austria. His other results this year: 6th, 11th, 5th, 7th, 8th for the DNF. He's not going to take big swings out of the championship lead. If current form is anything to go by, and as Cam alluded to, the Pramac boys are the informed team right now. They're the ones that are threatening for wins. If you didn't know any better, you'd have thought the liveries of the teams had been swapped. You'd think the Pramacs would be in the minor points positions, and you'd think Ducati were up there challenging for wins. And it's like Dovi pretty much admitted after qualifying on Saturday that it's not looking good. He basically said, "Look, this is a problem that's been
17th.
17th.
How does that happen?
Just couldn't put a lap together. Apparently, just said the bike just didn't feel good." He said, and everything they've tried has not worked.
This 2020 Ducati, Premac's making it work better than the factory team is.
Yeah, and I think it doesn't help. Well, it's good for Ducati in the long run, I would say, because and we'll get into their city season moves in a minute.
More on that later.
But one of the riders they're going to bring up, I think, seems to have maybe cracked Pandora's box on that Ducati. And we'll get into the details as to why in a minute, but it is not looking good for De Vitziozo. And of course, the race itself, just sheer bad luck, was collected. Johan Zarco fell at turn 2, tucked the front. Dovi was trying to avoid him around the outside. He gets collected. Nothing. There was just one of those incidents. Just nothing Dovi could have done about it. Just sheer bad luck, really, more than anything else. And
that was worst case scenario with Fabio winning.
Yeah. Oh, that was the one thing you're hoping, not like the main 2 title threats in that block of 4 we were talking about earlier finished first and second. It could not have been any more disastrous. Yeah, definitely. Jesus. These 2 most realistic rivals both took maximum points on the table, so Dovi all of a sudden is now a race back, and there is not a particularly strong round left for Ducati out of the 6 we've got. Maybe Aragon, but on pure power alone. But
then the Pramac bikes have been faster. Dovi's not going to be able to. Even if Ducati dominate there, he might be 3rd best stuck there. He's not going to be able to pull the points out of this. The peaks aren't matching the troughs. When it's bad, it's really bad. When it's good, it's not good enough.
Indeed. It is scruffy, to say the least. And like I said, Dovi now 24 points off the championship lead with 6 to go. Still plenty of time to catch the leading group, but still, I'm not sure where he's going to be able to do it on that one. But let's get into some of the other news we had take place during the weekend and after the weekend as well, I should say, because we had 3 big seats announced in silly season. One of them, well, we saw this coming back in March, and
fucking took you long enough.
What can I say? Merchandising is a tough thing to nail down when you are literally the institution, when you are the Michael Jordan of your sport.
It's a fun fact that Simon Patterson told me via Twitter DM. Apparently the man makes $30 million a year purely in merchandise.
I am not surprised in the slightest.
This is Valentino Rossi. He's at Petronas SRT Yamaha for 2021, which we all expected.
You're all shocked.
You're all shocked, surprised, stunned, aghast, nonplussed.
I know.
Even.
It is wild. I mean, apparently the big hurdle was image rights. What a surprise! the arguably the biggest brand in motorsport for an individual rider or driver takes a lot of time to iron out. But they got there in the end, and they announced it Saturday morning officially. They could finally get all the big graphics out in the social media department. Even SRT joked, "Sorry we kept you waiting." That they could finally officially confirm that alongside Frankie Morbidelli, Valentino Rossi will be on the SRT team. It's a 1-year deal with an option for a second year. The only reason there's really an option is because the Yamaha themselves haven't actually committed to their future in the sport beyond 2021, but most likely will. Lynn Jarvis said, "Don't worry about it. We'll get that ironed out in due course."
That would be weird.
Yeah, this is not another Mercedes. It ain't another Mercedes quit threat.
We
that
promise.
Would be
Lynn
really
Jarvis
weird.
Lynn's not like that. He's not like Toto or Merckx or any other journalists that like tease a Mercedes breakup. No, it will get ironed out. It's just a matter of when rather than if. But that's the only reason why apparently Rossi didn't sign a 2-year deal, which I think is crazy. So we're going to be at least seeing Valentino into his age 42 season, and I think his 25th year in Grand Prix motorcycle racing, which is just... Dear Lord.
Is he on the TB12 plan?
He has to be. I hope he looks at it like I hope he looks at the situation like Ichiro looked at it when he just goes, "Who the fuck is Tom Brady?" How
dare you? You as a Patriots fan.
Look, I thought it was funny. That's. I mean, I mentioned it on our website. There's not an awful lot to say that hasn't already been said about this. We kind of knew the parameters and knew what the implications were going to be of this right away. It's the biggest name in motorsport. He's going to be sticking around, and think that merchandise is going to fly off the friggin' shelves in Malaysia, where their team is based. They love him down in that country. It's going to be a sea of black and yellow. Oh man, yeah. I can only begin to. I can only begin to imagine what it is.
I can only imagine. I can only imagine what potential events happen down in Malaysia between Valentino Rossi and other riders.
Oh God! Like there'll be like SRT media days. They're gonna be firing T-shirts into the stands. There's gonna be burnouts everywhere. Loads of dancing girls.
They're really kick-starting interest in the.
It'd be real interesting if sales of a certain publication just suddenly went up.
What could that be, King?
Oh man! Don't
make
me do the shameless plug.
We're gonna get those Rossi 1 sneakers. You kick someone with the left.
Signature shoe is the left one extra thick. I mean, we joke, but to be fair, like. I literally said on Twitter at the time, like, I just strolled in front, I was like, oh look, Rossi's getting an upgrade, because he's actually going to the better Yamaha team right now.
I know, right?
Oh. We didn't even mention it during the race review. Vinales stunk, and that's all you need to know.
Oh,
let's just brief a cameo to say Maverick did a Maverick. Anyway, but it's exactly that. Like, look, the factory Yamaha team are 1st and 5th in the championship right now. They were 1st and 4th before this round even started. So you can make a case they have the strongest bike rider lineup in the sport right now with Fabio and Morbidelli, because they've won 4 races between them this year. They've won like half the races we've seen so far this year has been won on a bike that's black and turquoise. So if you're if you're a Rossi fan right now, looks like a good spot right now. Just saying, especially given he's got the majority of his crew not going with him over there because he's going with the SRT crew. SRT were very much digging their heels on this. You're only bringing like 2 dudes with you here because Razlan didn't want to basically sack his own staff that had taken him to that point in the first place. So
for probably at a minimum of 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So it was like, I'm not sacking my own dudes to bring yours in. You need to go back and cherry pick who you want to take with you. Like, you can have 2 dudes, basically. It's why amazing news that famous mechanic and guy that's been in the Yamaha and his setup for over 20 years, Alex Briggs, is not going with him to SRT, and that he's now a free agent, which is weird to say about a mechanic, but here we are.
That's a big deal in the sport.
Yeah, that is a massive deal in the sport. I remember, like, the Rossi revival in 2015 doesn't happen without him sacking Jeremy Burgess, his longtime crew chief that was there for 13 or so years together. That's what kick-started the company.
He was with Rossi since, what, 2000?
Yeah, 2000. First year in the top flight.
Yeah, because it used to be Mick Doohan's. Long time, many championship-winning crew chief.
Exactly. So, and that was seen as like the last roll of the dice for Valentino, and it actually kick-started him becoming a top flight rider again and nearly winning the championship in 2015. So yeah, it was a big deal for that to happen. So yeah, a lot of news coming out of the Rossi camp. Surprise, surprise. This is the one that was always going to be a bit more intriguing. The Ducati situation.
Yeah, so about that point about the Ducati factory team and the Pramac team swapping liveries, what if?
What if you just promote the 2 dudes that are on the quote-unquote B team right now? Because that's exactly what Ducati has done, because their lineups, they revealed both their lineups for 2021 this morning, and it was the obvious pick, but still obviously a bit of a surprise because they had options across the board. They ended up going with Francisco Bagnaia, or Pecco as we like to call him, Pecco alongside Miller in the factory Ducati team. Straight swap for both of their Pramac riders for this year. They'll both be on the factory bikes next year. And then on the Pramac team, worst kept secret, Jorge Martin taking one of the 2 seats, and Johan Zarco taking the other one, in a minor upset after doing some good work on the Avintia.
And wasn't it also revealed that both the Pramac riders will be on current Ducati machinery?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they'll all be on GP, will be the
21,
GP20B or the GP21, whatever they call it.
Yeah, it's the 21. All 4 of their mirrors are on the 21s. I believe Bagnaia and Martin have 2-year deals. Miller and Zarco have the 1+1 option on there. So, yeah, Ducati's revealed themselves, and I gotta say, I think the lineup's pretty good. I
like it. I think it's solid. I have been impressed with what we've seen out of Francesco Bagnaia this year, and I would love to see Jack Miller, the Grand Prix winner already. Let's see what he can do in a big-time team.
Yeah,
he's been on the cusp for a long time, it seems.
Like, Pramac have a very solid lineup. For personal reasons, I can't enjoy said lineup, but they have a solid lineup.
Are you still salty about the whole Johan Zarco situation? Is that it?
And now Jorge's gone too? Now Jorge's gone too.
Well, maybe KTM should just be better.
We're trying.
Yeah, I like it, but like... Are they getting a downgrade by moving to the factory team? It's scary.
That's the funky thing.
It ain't a downgrade in pay. It ain't a downgrade in the pay scale. I can say that.
Oh no.
No.
They pay their dudes very, very comfortably. Yeah, it's going to be a wild one, certainly. And I think it's a good mix. They've got a good blend of youth, experience, a lot of raw speed. I mean, as mentioned, Bagnaia has really come around this year. Zarco, with limited time on the 19, has done good work. The Brno round sticking out more than any other. Jorge Martin kind of COVIDed himself out of championship contention in Moto2, but still has insane speed, proving he can win races.
You got Roned.
He got Roned, as you could say. And Miller, again, has low-key been like a podium-level runner now for like the last 2 or 3 seasons. So, like, it's a good lineup. I mean, especially given they were losing De Vitziozo, and they threw a lot of money at a lot of dudes trying to get the big fish in free agency. They tried Maverick Vinales. They came this close to getting him and failed. They tried to get Alex Rins. That failed. They tried to get Joan Mir. That might be looking like a real failure for him right now, given that Mir's come around tenfold this year. And now, despite those swings and misses, I think they've actually come out all right in the end. If they can replicate Pramax's form in the factory team, Miller and Bagnaia will be able to challenge for wins right away, and that's not a bad thing at all. At least in my opinion.
Will they be shaking up the mechanics? Will they be bringing some of Pramax's people into Ducati? Or do you think
I think they'll be sharing
resources?
I think they'll be sharing resources from what I've been told, basically.
Okay.
So,
which
don't
makes
read
sense.
too much into that just yet. Yeah, so we'll wait and see how that figures out. But that's the Ducati situation. Very interesting idea. Like, again, I think Bagnaia is a monster talent. I really do, and him alongside Miller is going to be a great team. I love that Miller approved on Twitter. Was like, "Hey, we're keeping the band together," which I thought was. We love Jack on this show.
We're keeping the band together, and now we're in a better tour bus.
Yeah. Also, fun fact as well. I believe the tear off I mentioned on last week's show that Jack Miller saved, I believe is now currently up for auction for Wheels for Life. I think it's at over £3,000 right now. So
he autographed it and put it up on there.
Yeah, so rich people get a rare piece of racing memorabilia.
Get the tear off that killed a MotoGP bike.
It's bid now. It's for a very good cause. So as far as I'm concerned, so get on that, Ducati, and plug that up. But I'll quickly get into some of the support series as well, because we had a couple of fun ones out here as well. Moto2 was surprisingly good, actually. It's been a bit, likes to flag for a lot of the Moto2 season this year. This was a pretty good one. I mean, we had Luca Marini and Sam Lowe's have a good old-fashioned entire race Barney, and that was fun. They went back and forth pretty much the whole way through. They were the 2 fastest guys on the day, pretty comfortably. In the end, on that one, they broke away from the leading group very quick, and they got into their own race. It was Marini that would come out on top in the end. By just under a second, I believe it was, from Sam Lowe's in second in the end. So, yeah, Marini, I think that's his 3rd win of the year now as well. So, yeah, it is. 2 in the last 3 and 3rd overall. He extends his championship lead to 20 points. We'll get into that in full detail in just a second. But we also had Fabio Di Giannantonio get his first podium of the year for the Speed Up team in 3rd. He broke away from Navarro, and Joe Roberts in the top 5 for the Tenor American Racing Team. The Americans all smiled with glee. Joe Roberts back in the top 5. Yeah, he looked like he was having fun out there, which was nice to see. So yeah, Navarro and Roberts in the top 5. Could have been Jake Dixon up there as well, but his bike conked out due to a mechanical failure. Sigh. Once again, the Brits are screwed. Can we get some love on this show, please? No? We like Jake Dixon here, for God's sake.
That's what you get for gloating the other week.
That's fair. That's entirely fair. Shout out as well to Enea Bastianini. He went from 11th to 6th, trying to come back after a pretty poor qualifying by his standards. And you mentioned Jorge Martin a minute ago as well. It was his first race back after testing positive for COVID-19 a couple of weeks ago. He tested negative earlier on in the week. He came back. Great to hear that he's feeling okay. But sadly, his bike suffered technical problems as well, unfortunately. So again, 3 straight races now without any points to show for his title campaign at all. So given the scoreboard now, it's probably going to put Martin out of realistic title contention. Full result, as mentioned, that's in the top 5. Enea was 6th, Marco Bezzecchi 7th, Aaron Canet 8th. Well wishes to him. He's had surgery on his arm. He's had another case of Moto2 arm pump, everybody. So that's... Please get well soon, because we've had Cal have
lots of that this year.
Jesus,
in all 3 of the series.
Yeah, another arm pump keyhole procedure for Canet. He's recovering, should be back for next time out at Le Mans. Marcos Ramirez in 9th, Marcel Schrotter 10th, Luti, Nagashima, Garzo, Pons, and Corsi rounding off the points ahead of Gardner, Ben Schneider, Siren, Idazar, Daniel, and Betikersky as well rounding off the points. Championship standings in Moto2. Luca Marini now has a 20-point lead on Enea Bastianini. Remember, Bastianini's probably the one with the MotoGP prospects for next year. Somehow Marini might not be. Very strange how that one turns out, because, forgive me, King, quick side note, there's only 3 open seats left in the MotoGP paddock. One of them's probably going to Taka.
Yep.
The Avinti is probably going to Bastianini. And the Aprilia seat all boils down to the Court of Arbitration for Sport.
Yep.
Marini is probably going to miss out.
Slowly. We're inching closer and closer to that, but we're not there yet.
Middle of October. We're about 3 weeks away. We'll know soon. Please, dear God. Can we finally get a verdict so we can rest this once and for all? But Bastianini, as I mentioned, second in the championship on 130 points, 20 behind Marini. Marco Bezzecchi third on 114. Sam Lowe's now 4th on 103. And Jorge Martin on 79. It's really busting out. It's now looking like probably a 4-horse race for the championship, with Lowe's just on the outside on that one. Keeping some faint British hope alive, because that's what we do on BT Sport when you watch.
Yeah, I do want to... One of these days I want to do like an essay about how, if it's done right and if it's done sparingly, partial commentary can be fun and enhance an experience. When overdone and overblown, it can detract.
Speaking of which...
It does.
Speaking of which, Moto3!
Wow!
Oh no, the headline's got John McPhee in it, and it's not for the good reason. Oh!
Big early drama and a big championship flashpoint as John McPhee lost it early into turn 4 and collected title favorite Albert Arenas in the process. McPhee took full responsibility for it and went to the Aspar garage to apologize to Arenas during the race. Good lad. Meanwhile, at the front, the moment you've all been waiting for, Darren Binder finally collected himself and put together a big final lap to win his first Grand Prix and making him the 7th different winner of Moto3 this season after just 9 races. Tony Arbolino and Dennis Foggia rounded off the podium, and the big focus was on leading contender Ai Ogura, and he just couldn't make up ground in the lead group, only finishing 11th. A big missed opportunity for the title. That is Binder, Arbolino, Foggia, Sergio Not the Golfer Garcia in 4th. Lopez in 5th, Fanati in 6th, Massi in 7th, Celestino Vignati in 8th, Antonelli in 9th, Rodrigo in 10th, Ogura in 11th, Salak in 12th, Fernandez 13th, Stefano Nepa 14th, and Ryose Yamanaka rounding out the top 15.
It's funny, if you actually watch that race, like, props to the race directors and the Dorna's crew. They kept cutting back to Ogura and showing his onboards constantly during the second half of that race. They knew exactly what they were doing. They knew this was a big opportunity for Ogura in the championship, and he kind of failed to capitalize, really. He still takes the championship lead by 3 points over Arenas, 122 to 119, but this was a big missed opportunity to do some heavy damage in the championship, and he couldn't do it. As mentioned, John McPhee basically collecting Arenas off the road. Arenas was furious when he was in the gravel trap, and yeah, as mentioned, McPhee, bless his heart, went straight to the Aspar garage and immediately apologised when he got back to the paddock.
British rider. A real sportsman, mate.
Bless him. He's a good. We rail on him a lot because of BT Sport affiliation. John McPhee's a good lad. He's a good lad, really.
He's a good lad and a good rider.
Yeah, it's just, it's easy to dislike because of the affiliation and the broadcasters to get behind him. It's kind of the problem. As mentioned, Gura leading the way in the championship now at 122 points. Will be ruining that 11th place though, mind you. Arena second on 119. John McPhee on 98, Tony Arbolino on 95, and Celestino Vietti rounding off the top 5 on 94. Still a lot to play for in that one. As mentioned, 6 races to go. MotoGP is back, not this weekend, but next weekend. The Sunday, October the 11th at Le Mans. We are going to have a Le Mans race, and I believe we're going to have 10,000 fans allowed in for it as well. And if Johan Zarco or Fabio Quartararo are anywhere near the front, you are going to hear about it. The French dudes are mad for bike racing. The 10,000 will make the noise of 100,000. I guarantee you that. If Quartararo is anywhere up there on a home race,
man, and they don't even have to pipe that crowd noise in through the PA.
No, not required. They'll be having megaphones. There'll be flares. The campsites are going to be on fire. It's going to be great.
Wait, is this a MotoGP round or an ECW pay-per-view in 1998?
Yes. That is the answer to that question. Yes, it is. Whew. We'll be back next week. And it's kind of I think it's going to be one of those sort of episodes where you just group a lot of stuff together, because isn't IndyCar racing this weekend at Indianapolis?
IndyCar is next weekend.
That's pretty much it.
That's it. We can go through the new NASCAR schedule. We can go through the rainiest of races this year at the
No. The Nürburgring was not rain delayed. It took a power nap.
It took a power nap.
Yeah. It's still in slumber. It's going to wake up sometime in the middle of December.
Yeah. All we got next week is World Superbikes and IndyCar for the main series that we cover.
It'll be one of those. It's one of those like episodes where we haven't got the full Kool-Aid, but we're gonna try and put a bit of water in there to pad it out a little bit. And
we're good at adding that water in.
We're very good at that water. We're gonna, and then we're going to add a 5th of Super GT to the mix just to spice things up a bit. Be sure to leave your keys in the punch bowl.
And on that note, let's get out of here. Before I see the blindfolds come out. Places you can find.
Whole podcast crew corpsing. Send for the man.
Happy International Podcast Day, everyone.
Only on International Podcast Day would RJ get us all corpsing over a Swingers reference. God damn him. God damn him to hell. Places you can find us one more time. We're on youtube.com/motorsport101. Please subscribe if you're watching us on there for all the latest updates and videos from vlogs, all that good stuff, all the episodes, and in future as well, highlight segments from the show will be up on there as well. We're on facebook.com/motorsport101. I promise I'll post more on there too. Lewis demanded me to. We're on Twitter at motorsport_101, as well as our personal handles are on screen now. If you're listening to us on the audio version, that's at Harrison101HD, at RJ O'Connell, at Ryan Eric King, and at CBuckley917. Our website, motorsport101.com. We're on Instagram now as well, Motorsport101pod. Follow us on there for all some sneaky bits and teasers, and whatever you feel like cobbling together on there. It's going to be fun. And, of course, you can back us financially on Patreon, patreon.com/motorsport101. $5 gets you early access to all the audio versions of our show. $10 for the video version, as well as being able to listen to these shows live as they're being recorded. Thanks to everyone that's just listened in late tonight. I've been Dre Harrison. They've been RJ O'Connell, Ryan Eric King, and Cam Buckley. I'm off to school with somebody else's girlfriend. Thanks for listening, and sayonara.
Baseball's great, y'all. Disclaimer, baseball may or may not be great by the time this podcast goes out on video and audio formats.
King's got nothing.
Lakers in 5.
And yes, bye.